there is a principle called Wu Wei. And this means, Wu means none or not, no, negation. Wei has a combination of meanings. It can mean action, making, but the best translation I have found for it is forcing. And so Wu Wei is the principle of not forcing in anything that you do. Now we know when we watch any performance of an artist, be it a dancer or an actor or a musician, we know immediately when the performance is forced. And we say it doesn't ring true, it's too artificial, it doesn't seem to be natural. Many people who study the Taoist doctrines think that Wu Wei means do nothing. It doesn't mean that. There is a time for action. When you study judo, you use muscle only at the right moment. When your opponent is hopelessly overextended and off balance, and you add a little muscle to it and you throw him across the room. But only then. You never use muscle at the wrong moment. And so Wu Wei is based on knowledge of the tide, the drift of things. Get with it. Wu Wei is the art of sailing rather than the art of rowing.
I would go down to my lovely little gazebo at the bottom of the garden, sit down, and I'm absolutely allowed not to do anything. I'm allowed to sit at my desk, I'm allowed to stare out at the world, I'm allowed to do anything I like, as long as it isn't anything. Not allowed to do a crossword, not allowed to read a book, not allowed to phone a friend. All I'm allowed to do is absolutely nothing or write. And what I love about that is I'm giving myself permission to write or not write. But writing is actually more interesting than doing nothing after a while. You know, you sort of sit there and might as well write something. You don't have to write. You have permission to not write. But you don't have permission to do anything else.
The way we come up with great ideas is the way that musicians come up with musical pieces. If you were to film a musician in the process of creating a great work of art, for the most part, they would stare out the window. Melodies, fragments of melodies play in their head until some of these melodies begin to coalesce, and then you go to a piano, plunk out some notes, and then you go back to looking out the window. When I look outside, I see equations. I've memorized all the equations of string theory. I see all these equations floating just like fragments of melodies. And then I try to piece them together and see whether they fit. No, they don't fit together. Yeah, this one fits together. But then you got to do the math. Then I get with a sheet of paper, just like a composer gets a piano, a sheet of paper, I got to crank out all the tedious details. And then I go back to staring out the window. Just like a composer, I play with melodies called equations in my head. That's how we work.
When we speak in Taoism of following the course of nature, following the way, what it means is more like this. Doing things in accordance with the grain. It doesn't mean you don't cut wood, but it means that you cut wood along the lines where wood is most easy to cut. And you interact with other people along lines which are the most genial. And this, then, is the great fundamental principle, which is called Wu Wei, not to force anything. I think that's the best translation. It's often called not doing, not acting, not interfering, but not to force. Seems to me to hit the nail on the head. Like, don't ever force a lock, or you bend the key or break the lock. You jiggle until it revolves. So Wu Wei is always to act in accordance with the pattern of things as they exist.